Welcome. Tonight, we drift into a quiet place where time is measured softly, not by alarms and rush, but by the quiet rhythm of the body. Imagine yourself stepping gently into a human sleep laboratory, a place that feels more like a whisper than a statement, where the lights are steady and low, the air is calm and cool, and the hours are brushed with patience. As we settle in together, if this gentle corner helps you feel at ease, you can like this video and subscribe, so this sleepy library keeps growing for you. There is a playlist in the description too, ready to keep playing softly while you float deeper and deeper into the night. What city country are you watching from right now? You find yourself in a hallway that does not hurry. The floor is a pale matte surface, chosen because it does not reflect harshly. The ceiling rests lower than you expect, quieting sound. The light does not intrude. It is warm, but controlled, enough to read by, but not enough to stir the brain into wakefulness. The temperature is steady, neither cool nor warm. A place where skin does not need to negotiate. Somewhere faintly, a humming system breathes filtered air, as if it too were a careful technician, steady and delicate, never drawing attention to itself. The doors are soft close. The hinges have learned to be silent. The sleep lab is a home for repetition. The same cables are coiled and uncoiled. The same charts are checked. The same rhythms are observed again and again until they reveal their small, reliable truths. You could stand in the corridor and listen, and you would hear almost nothing. Only the subdued susurration of vents, the light tread of quiet shoes, the whisper of paper sliding against paper, the gentle click of a pen. It is a place where time breathes. Here, people come to align themselves with the deep clock hidden in the brain, a quiet cluster of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It sits above where the optic nerves cross, a tiny conductor with a patient hand. It keeps time for the body, not like a stopwatch, but like a tide, rolling forward and rolling back, guiding when sleepiness rises and falls, when temperature dips and rises, when hormones drift into the bloodstream like candlelight unfolding. Imagine you're a participant here, arriving in soft clothing, carrying a small duffel with the ordinary comforts of your own room. Perhaps a book with dog-eared pages, perhaps a sweater or a scarf that sits lightly around your neck. The staff are unhurried. They greet you in voices that never spill over. They guide you to a small, clean room where the bed is neatly made, with white sheets pressed flat and smooth, a pillow that yields just enough, and a blanket that feels like a gentle hand placed over your shoulders. A small lamp glows with a dim amber shade. The clock on the wall does not tick. In fact, in many of these rooms, clocks are tucked away, their faces turned to the wall, because time here does not want to startle you. Time here wants to be felt more than seen. They explain quietly what will happen. Electrodes we will place with a light touch, a little gel, a little tape, to listen to your sleeping brain. Thin wires like silk threads guided to the scalp, where they do their work without waking you. A few light sensors at your temples to watch the movements of your eyes, slow and sweeping during deep rest, quick and dancing when dreams arrive. A band on your chest to sense the expansion and contraction of your breath. A sensor near your jaw to notice the ease and release of your muscles when the day finally lets go. The routine is gentle. The routine is comforting. It is repeated so often here that the steps feel like a practiced lullaby. Imagine the process unfolding. A soft cotton swab, a touch of coolness on the skin, not sharp, not rough, just the smallest suggestion of cleanliness, a preparation so the sensors can sit comfortably. Each electrode is placed with attention. They never rush. They pause to make sure every wire lies in a way that will not tug. They guide the wires along the pillow's edge. So when you turn, you are free. When you breathe, you are free. When sleep finds you, nothing interrupts the path. The laboratory moves on circadian time. It listens patiently to the body's slow conversation with the day and night. You imagine a line drawn through the day, long and smooth. At one end, wakefulness grows. At the other, sleepiness gathers like a gentle fog. In these rooms, scientists quietly keep track of that tide. Saliva samples vested in small, labeled tubes, each one a snapshot of where the internal night is. Melatonin, dissolved in those clear drops, tells a story about your evening. It rises when the brain whispers to the rest of you that darkness has arrived. And the story of your organs and your cells begins to tilt toward restfulness. The samples are gathered with care. A tiny vial, a soft label, a time code that marks a moment like a bookmark in a long book. In the control room, behind a window that glows softly, monitors display waves, gentle lines, rising and falling, capturing the deep rhythm of the brain, the breathing pattern, the steady drum of the heart. The staff sit in comfortable chairs. Their screens don't flash, they drift. They watch for patterns that speak slowly, patterns that look like sleep's familiar shapes. The highest waves arrive in deep sleep. The smaller, more erratic waves come with dreams. The rhythm repeats. Night after night, it repeats. You take a breath and look down the corridor again. You notice the doors to other rooms where other people are living on circadian time. Each person has their own inner clock, slightly earlier or slightly later, like two watches set just a few minutes apart, both correct in their own way. Some people are naturally early, waking with the very first gray at the window, yawning by late evening. Others are natural night people, the ones who feel alert when the city is quiet, whose mind feels most alive as the hour grows late. The lab does not judge these differences. It watches them comfortably, like watching the path of birds crossing a sky at different heights and speeds. They are all part of the same sky. The rooms are kept as neutral as possible. No bright lights that might reset the internal clock. No sudden noises that might jolt. The furniture has rounded corners. The bedding is simple and clean, not fussy, not noisy. Each room has a device that keeps the air moving gently, smooth and even, steady on the skin without becoming a thought. Even the door handles feel damped, closing with a hush so the afternoon and the night can share a hallway without interrupting one another. In desks and cabinets, drawers hold coiled wires, folded gauze squares, small bottles with caps that turn with a quiet click, and the careful baskets where samples rest, labeled and organized, so the story of each person's night is never confused. Outside these rooms in the larger building, the day might be bristling, cars passing, phones chiming, schedules stacking. But when you are here, the lab is a shelter for repetition. Imagine the rhythm of routines. A meal arrives at the same time, day after day, served on a tray that holds a small bowl, a cup, a plate, easy to clean, only lightly scented. Food that does not wake the senses too sharply, but nourishes steadily. If a protocol calls for controlled meals, the portions are measured and familiar, chosen to be gentle and not too sweet, not too spicy, not too surprising. You can look and know what to expect. Repetition becomes a blanket of its own. Researchers here are stewards of light and darkness. They know that light is not just something to see by, but a message. It is the strongest signal to the body's clock, a voice telling it where it is in the cycle. Bright light in the morning encourages the clock to set itself earlier, nudging every cell to adjust. Bright light late at night tells the clock to drift later, sliding the schedule forward like a slow tide. So they handle light with care. They shade windows or use special bulbs set to gentle levels. They time the light that reaches your eyes, guiding it so your clock can be observed without interference. There is a soft red glow in some rooms when darkness is needed, but staff still need to see. The red feels like a sunset that never sharpens, a quiet horizon inside. Imagine passing hours in a constant routine, a special schedule used in some studies. You would be resting in a comfortable recliner or lying in a bed propped slightly, so blood and pressure stay balanced and the body stays untroubled. The room stays dim, the temperature stays steady. Small snacks arrive at regular intervals, almost like the tick of a watch at the edge of us hearing. The snacks are small and identical, so you cannot anchor yourself to a typical mealtime. You are neither hungry nor full. You are simply at ease. Every hour, a tiny sample might be taken or a measurement noted. The gentle rhythm continues. Time becomes liquid, slower, with fewer edges. In other protocols called forced desynchrony, the day is lengthened on purpose or shortened, nudging the sleep period forward by a little each time, so the body's clock reveals its natural pace when it is not anchored to the sun. In those studies, lights stay low, clocks are hidden, and the schedule drifts like a raft, pushed by a soft current. The researchers walk with you through that drift, not prodding, only guiding, noting, taking care. When you sleep, they watch. When you wake, they greet you with the same calm tone as before, steady and quiet, so your nervous system never hears a shout. The gentle rhythm continues. You peek through a glass panels into the control room again. The scientists' screens show rolling waveforms, the heartbeat, a quiet thud, the breath, a smooth sign, the eyes shifting like small punctuation in the night. There is comfort in the familiarity of it all. Pre-sleep drowsiness has a look on the screen. Deep sleep has a look. Dream sleep has a look. The lab has learned to recognize these not as events to chase, but as weather patterns to observe. The screen's light is turned down low to protect the watchers too, because this building cares about the circadian time of those who work within it. Many labs rotate staff slowly to avoid exposing them to chaotic schedules. Everyone here tries to move as gently as possible in the world of hours. There is a soft emphasis on the senses, nothing strong, nothing startling. Perhaps the faint scent of fresh linen, perhaps a hint of warm electronics, the almost vanilla scent that a well-maintained monitor gives off when it has been on all day. If there is music, it is only distant, a fragment of a melody down a corridor, too thin to hum. The most present sounds are the ones your own body makes, amplified by devices that do not judge, the breath slowing, the small movements of a sleeper turning, the heartbeat like a hush. These sounds are captured and become data. But in this moment, you can simply let them be what they are. Evidence of a body at ease. The minds who work here love the consistency. They love the slow revelation that comes from repeating the same careful steps with many different people, seeing the shared patterns and the personal variations. They know the way core body temperature dips in the night, gently and reliably, a small valley around the time when sleep tends to be deepest. They watch as melatonin rises, its concentration like a curve that lifts, holds a quiet plateau, then falls away as morning approaches. They note the way cortisol, a hormone that helps you wake and be alert, rises near dawn, not sharply, but with purpose, like the lightning of the sky even when the curtains are drawn. They see how heart rate smooths and slows and how breathing becomes regular and deep, except in dreams, when the breath might quicken slightly, as if the story in the head asks for a little more oxygen. Imagine yourself as part of this. You lie back on the bed, the sheets cool at first, then warmer as your body gives a little heat to them. The electrodes sit lightly against your skin. The wires gather to a small box that sits at the bedside, its edges rounded, its corners softened, designed to be touched without concern. The staff member who placed the sensor steps away, watches from the next room, and checks in with a calm voice through the intercom. You speak softly in reply, even if you are alone at home when you listen, because the room invites quiet responses. The lamp dims, and you look at the ceiling, not reading it like a page, but simply letting its smoothness invite your mind to slow. The gentle rhythm continues. In these spaces, the concept of night shifts gently. Night is not defined by a clock on the wall. Night is understood as the internal night, the time when your biology expects darkness and rest. The lab can recreate night even at midday with controlled light, controlled sound, controlled routine, and it can host day by opening the light slowly at the right moment, by offering appropriate timing for food, by guiding activity. The staff sometimes walk outside on their breaks to find their own light, to bathe their eyes in daylight so their own clocks do not wander. They return to the dim rooms refreshed, like caretakers of a museum who step into the sun briefly, then return to preserve the works within. The science here is as much about kindness to the body as it is about measurements. The idea is to respect how the body wants to move through time. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the tiny timekeeper, listens to signals from the eyes and from the environment. It sends gentle messages through the day to different systems, nudging them into harmony. The liver adjusts when to be most ready to process nutrients. The gut prepares for meals at predictable times. Muscles become slightly warmer and more ready to work in the late afternoon. The brain becomes more efficient at certain tasks in the morning and more creative and associative later in the day. When it all aligns, you feel a sense of ease and steadiness, the way an orchestra feels when all the players settle into the same slow, reassuring tempo. You might learn that living on circadian time is not about rigid control. It is about relaxing into the body's preferred rhythm, or when circumstances do not allow ideal schedules, making small decisions that are gentle. light in the morning, dimness in the evening, regular meals, quiet routines, a consistent bedtime and wake time that shifts only slowly, week by week, if needed. This lab often invites people to practice those small kindnesses before a study begins, to arrive with a rhythm already begun. So the measurements taken here can reflect not a single night of novelty, but the deeper melody of your week. You imagine one of the scientists sitting at a desk with a mug that is not quite empty, typing notes in a tone as calm as the room around them. The words are clear, but not hurried. They write about sleep onset latency, which is the time it takes to fall asleep. They write about sleep efficiency, a non-judgmental term for how much of the time in bed you are actually asleep. They write about wake after sleep onset, the little awakenings that can happen in the night, and how the brain knits them into the fabric of dreams so they do not feel like interruptions. They note the slow wave activity in the deep stages and the steady alternation of non-REM and REM, a cycle of about 90 minutes repeating through the night. They do not write with excitement. They write with steady affection for the predictable, for the way the brain shows its cycles like a seashell shows its spirals. Through another window, you see the small laboratory where samples rest quietly in racks. A refrigerator hums, careful and consistent, holding temperatures like a promise. A centrifuge spins, but never harshly, separated by a door that muffles its motion, an appliance that does its work with dignity, sorting fluids into layers so that they can be read later. Labels with times and dates sit aligned in rows. The handwriting is tidy. Each label is a bookmark placed at the page where a moment was captured. If you were to hold one of those tubes to the light, it would look like nothing, just a clear drop. But the data inside speaks quietly about the phase of a person's internal night, information that can guide them gently toward a schedule that feels more natural and less strained. Imagine the day in the life of a participant who comes for a week-long study. On the first day, they are greeted. A baseline night unfolds, measured but not manipulated. On the second day, they might follow a controlled routine, dim light only in the evening, screens kept warm and distant, or replaced by a book that breathes slower. Meals arrive at steady times. Activity is structured gently. The body begins to feel predictability, like a soft hand at the small of the back. When night becomes internal night, melatonin rises in the saliva, and the subject's eyelids grow heavier, not because someone told them to be heavy, but because the inner clock is beginning to be heard. Another night passes under watchful, gentle eyes. Day 3 might include a light pulse at a calculated hour to nudge the rhythm earlier or later. Depending on the study's aim, the gentle rhythm continues. You think about all the instruments that make this possible, not as machines, but as companions to the night. The electroencephalograph amplifies the brain's faint whispers. The electromyograph listens to the chorus of muscles quieting. The electrooculograph traces the eye's glide. A small pulse oximeter rests like a ring of light on a finger, observing oxygen saturation without pressing. A thermistor nestles lightly under the nose or on the upper lip, sensing the movement of air out and in, the breath an ocean wave in miniature, repeated and repeated, patient as the night. Each sensor contributes a line to a score, Together they compose a portrait of rest. There is also a gentle attention to the narration around sleep. Words matter here. You will not hear language that scolds or frightens. No one tells you that if you miss a night, you will fail. No one warns that dreams must be this way or that. The tone is always kind. The guidance is simple. Make the room cool and dark and quiet. Let your body tell you when it is ready. Allow the phone to be a little farther away, like a book closed and placed on the bedside table. Think of sleep not as a performance, but as a tide. It will arrive if the shoreline is smooth and the wind is calm. The lab has a kitchen, small and tidy, where simple meals are prepared or heated. The coffee for staff is stored carefully because they also consider when it is appropriate to drink it. If a researcher will be watching all night, they plan the timing of their cup so their own rhythm is honored. Tea sits next to it, including herbal kinds kept for participants who want something warm but not stimulating. A small refrigerator holds yogurt and fruit, a drawer with gently crunchy biscuits, a container of oats that can become a bowl of quiet comfort in the early morning hours. The hum of the refrigerator is like a bass note in the building song. In the early afternoon, when the building is at its calmest, you might find a researcher adjusting a light meter, measuring lux at the height of a participant's eyes, ensuring the level is exactly as the protocol dictates. The meter reads values quietly, its small screen meticulous in the dimness. The researcher writes the number in a notebook, then types it into a spreadsheet, aligning it in a column where many numbers already sit like beads on a string. This is the habit of the lab. Everything is placed in order. Hours are stacked in rows. Information is coaxed gently into shape. Imagine lying still and letting boredom become a friend. In many studies, this is encouraged. It is not a boredom of impatience. It is a boredom of gentle relief, where nothing is demanded and nothing is withheld. You look at the soft pattern of the curtain. You notice the way the light changes, not dramatically, only slightly, across the afternoon. You hear a cart roll down the hallway once. You taste a sip of water. You feel the bed under your body and the air moving across your cheek. The mind starts to drift. Thoughts elongate and thin out. They lose their edges and become like clouds with no strict outline. The gentle rhythm continues. In the language of science, there are words like Zeitgeber, a German word that means time giver. Light is the strongest of these givers. The temperature of the environment, the timing of food, the timing of activity, social cues, all of these also give time to the internal clock. When you allow these to be consistent with a steady hand and a kind schedule, the internal systems align more easily. This lab uses those givers with purpose. They make the day easy to read for the body. They interpret darkness as a gift, not as an absence, and offer it generously when the study calls for it. Sometimes the lab invites people who work through the night to spend time here, to help shift their clocks or to understand how their bodies respond. In those studies, the night becomes the working day. The lab provides light carefully at night and dimness during the day. It offers dark shades and quiet corridors, and it shields the day's noises as best it can. It teaches slowly that even when the world outside runs on a schedule that is different, the body can still find a version of steadiness. It might not be perfect, but it can be kind. The walls of the rooms are painted in quiet tones, colors that do not jump. soft grays, gentle creams, yet blues. The artwork, when there is any, is abstract and simple, shapes that do not tell stories but provide a place for the eyes to rest without getting pulled into a narrative. A chair sits near the bed, upholstered in a fabric that does not squeak, built to cradle, not to make you sit tall. A small shelf holds a clock for staff, but its face is turned away from you. Time becomes less about numbers and more about feeling. You may imagine a night where you sleep, and in the morning Taft come in quietly to wake you, gently, at a defined point in your sleep cycle, to see how waking feels at different moments. Sometimes they wake you from deep sleep. The brain is very slow, like a heavy stone warmed by the sun. Speech is thick. The world returns slowly. Other times they wake you from dream sleep. The mind bubbles up with fragments of narrative, and if they ask you to speak, you describe floating or running, or a gentle conversation with someone you have not seen in years, and then it fades with the light. You close your eyes again, and you drift easily into the next cycle, because the room encourages the return. The gentle rhythm continues. Think of the lab's quiet rituals at the start and end of each day. In the morning, a staff member wipes down surfaces with a soft cloth, the scent so faint it is barely there, a presence that suggests freshness without making a statement. Wires are coiled back into their baskets. Batteries are checked. The EKG leads are cleaned, the small snap connectors polished with care. The bed is made again, sheets smoothed with flat palms, pillows reshaped. The curtain is opened a little, if light is allowed. The room feels not like a clinic, but like a guest room prepared for someone who is loved. Midday is a bridge. Some people are awake, being measured in the dimness. Others are sleeping through their internal night, their rooms deeper and stiller. In a corner, a quiet printer hums as it prints a page with waveforms, the ink gliding into place. Someone signs a box at the bottom of a form, the pen tip whispering across paper. A label is peeled from its backing, pressed onto a small tube, smoothing it with a finger so there are no bubbles. It tenses the background, and in that silence, small acts become meaningful. In the evening, the lab becomes gentler still. Even the whispers soften. The little red standby lights on machines are muted with small covers so they do not glow too bright. The hallway lights are lowered. The team moves like cats, careful of every footstep, not out of fear, but from respect. A participant is guided to their bed. A staff member checks each electrode again and asks softly if everything feels comfortable. The participant nods and closes their eyes. The staff member retreats, closing the door with a hush. The monitors in the control room brighten just a hair, like a candle being cupped. The watchers settle in their chairs, elbows supported, eyes moving in slow sweeps across the screens. The data builds through the night, line by line, a record of waves and breaths and beats. It is all saved carefully and will be looked at later in more detail. But for now, it is simply a portrait of a person at rest. These nights are never dramatic. They are collections of small, reliable acts, repetitions that tell us how the human body wants to be treated at the edge of wakefulness and beyond it. The lab's work is to notice those acts and to share them in ways that are useful, so that outside these walls, people can arrange their homes and their habits in ways that allow rest to come more easily. Imagine now that you are in a longer study, one where days gently fold into one another like sheets stacked with care. You learn the paths of the hallway in your socks. You learn the small click a door makes if you're not mindful and how to ease it so it closes with a sigh. You learn the staff by their footsteps before you learn their faces, because here, sound is how you meet. You sleep and you wake and you eat and you read and you breathe, and slowly you feel the inner clock settle like a compass needle that has stopped trembling. It points to your own north, and you feel guided. The staff talk among themselves about the subtle findings of the day. They speak about internal phase, a way to describe where a person is in their internal day even when the outside day disagrees. They discuss dim light melatonin onset. The moment melatonin rises above a particular level, marking the beginning of internal night. They discuss phase angle, the relationship between internal night and the time you typically fall asleep, and how adjusting evening light or morning light can change that angle in ways that are comfortable and sustainable. They mention sleep pressure, a different system from circadian timing, the homeostatic drive that grows the longer you are awake, and how this interacts with circadian cues to guide sleepiness. They are precise but soft. Even scientific words feel quiet here. Sometimes a participant walks on a treadmill at a slow pace in a bright room to observe how light and mild activity shape wakefulness. The treadmill is well cushioned. Its motor is smooth. The belt glides seamlessly. The participant watches a blank wall or a calm image, not a screen full of fast images, because the brain does not need insistence. The staff measure heart rate and sleepiness with small scales and simple words. They adjust the light gently. They might place blue blocking glasses on a participant later in the evening to protect their eyes from the more alerting wavelengths. The glasses feel light. The world becomes warmer in tone, and the mind becomes heavier, like a feather drifting down onto a quiet surface. There is a hallway where photographs of earlier generations of this lab hang, black and white, where the machines had dials and needles, where paper scrolled under pen tips that scratched faint lines like rivers on a map. You can feel the continuity. People have been listening to sleep for decades, always learning something new, but always with the same patience. The sleep lab is a place that respects what is fundamental about being human. Everyone sleeps, everyone drifts, everyone returns. The quiet repetition of the lab is not only for people who have difficulty sleeping, it is also for the healthy, the ones whose cycles are regular, so the lab can learn what regularity looks like in detail. It is for those who fly across time zones and want to recover their rhythm more gracefully. It is for those who wake too early and want to shift gently. It is for those whose work asks them to be awake when their inner night is strongest, and who need strategies to ease that mismatch. This is the work of the lab, carried out in slow strokes without spectacle, taking care of each moment so the whole becomes clear. You imagine the building's roof at night, calm and broad, with the city's faint glow reaching upward. Under that roof, people breathe. The lab breathes with them. It is a safe harbor from the noise of urgency. Here, the hours are canvases. The staff paint them with quiet rituals. The participants lie down and close their eyes, giving the lab permission to listen and to learn. And the lab, in return, gives back understanding, not as a blare, but as a whisper that can be set into a routine back home. Now, let your awareness settle into your own body. Even if you are not in a lab, your inner clock is with you. Your eyes know the difference between morning light and evening light. Your skin enjoys the steady temperature of a room that has been set gently. Your lungs enjoy slow air. Your heartbeat slows when your thoughts soften. Imagine yourself back in that small room, in that cool bed, the sensors lightly touching your scalp, not as interruptions, but as reminders that you are being carefully attended to. The gentle rhythm continues. Some nights, researchers dim the lights hours before bedtime to let melatonin rise earlier. They speak of phase advancing, like turning a page forward. Other times, they delay the light until later into the night to shift the clock backward. They call that a phase delay. Each step is made in small increments, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. The body appreciates small changes much more than leaps. The lab respects that. The lab moves like a hand smoothing a wrinkle from a sheet, patient, gentle, content with gradual progress. On the desk, a book about chronobiology lies open to a chapter on the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The words describe how it keeps time through molecular feedback loops, tiny oscillations in gene expression, and proteins that accumulate and degrade in a cycle of roughly 24 hours. The concept is complex, but it is not presented here as an emergency to understand, only as a beautiful mechanism like a watch whose back has been removed to show the gears. The exhalation of the reader is slow. The lab breathes with them. In some parts of the lab, actigraphy watches are used, small devices that look like simple wristwatches but record movement continuously for days or weeks. They are lightweight. They store the story of sleep and wake in gentle curves of activity. Worn at home, they help the lab understand a person's habits before they come in. They help the lab craft plans that respect those habits. The lab does not scold. It adapts. It invites the participant to make changes that are realistic, that fit into their life, like a new cushion fitting into a chair. For people with delayed sleep phase, those who cannot fall asleep until the small hours and who wake when the morning is nearly done, the lab offers slow shifts. A little less light at night, a little more light in the morning, blue light reduced in the evening, perhaps with lenses that make screens amber, or by simply stepping away from screens entirely, choosing a book or a gentle conversation instead. For those with advanced sleep phase, the lab lets light be brighter in the evening in a careful and measured way and keeps mornings dim for a while so the clock can stretch. The changes are not punitive. They are compassionate. The gentle rhythm continues. During some studies, participants remained semi-recumbent through the day and night to reduce the variability that comes from posture, because the body's systems are sensitive to position. They are brought small snacks every hour to keep their bodies in a steady metabolic state, to prevent the mealtime rhythm from becoming a time giver. They are kept in dim light to prevent the clock from being nudged. In this quiet setting, the lab can watch the raw rhythm of the internal clock. Time passes like a slow river. The staff move quietly around the room, checking sensors, adjusting pillows, making notes, replacing a water cup with one that is cooler and fresher. This is not a place of deprivation. It is a place of care. The long patience of those who work here is a resource in itself. They consider an intervention a success if it is gentle, if it is so unremarkable that the participant hardly notices it happening, except that later they feel more rested, more aligned. The lab loves the subtle victories, a slightly earlier sleep onset, a more consolidated night, a morning where the first light feels less harsh and more like an invitation. The staff speak about these things in the soft way people talk after a concert in a cathedral, as if the space itself asked for quiet. At a certain hour, it is time for the second half of the night, when our REM sleep comes in longer stretches. The monitors begin to show more eye movements, more varied breathing. Dreams visit. The dream content is private. The lab does not peer into it. It simply watches the physiology. But you, in your own imagining, can feel how a nice dream feels in the body, calm and slow, like floating in warm water. The jaw relaxes, the face smooths, the hands loosen, the breath is easy and expansive. The gentle rhythm continues. Here, you might choose to think of small habits that help make sleep easier. Lowering lights 1 hour before bed, keeping the bedroom quiet and free of strong scents, letting the room be cool in the bedding light, placing the phone far enough away that it becomes a choice, not a reflex, reading paper pages, listening to something calm and even allowing words to wash over you without insisting, imagining a place like this lab where repetition is comfort, where the body is always honored for what it does each night when you are not thinking about it. And now, as we drift deeper into this story, I will place one small pebble in the still pond of your attention, then let the ripples fade. How sleepy are you on a scale of 1 to 10? If you're still listening, notice how your breathing feels now, perhaps slower. Notice the weight of your body against whatever supports you. Notice any small muscles that can soften further around the eyes, the jaw, the throat, the shoulders, the abdomen, the hands. You're allowed to be as heavy as you want to be. The bed or the couch or the chair will hold you. Let gravity be kind. In the lab, this surrender is a daily practice. The bed knows the shape of each person who lies upon it. The pillow yields so that the head can be level and the neck can be free. The blanket lies against the body without clinging. Once, a researcher described their favorite sound here. It is the hush that happens right after the lights are dimmed, when the participant's breath changes from the wakeful pattern to the pre-sleep pattern. It is not loud. It is a felt thing, more than a sound, like the way air feels before a gentle rain. The lab becomes a little more still. The rest of the world continues, but in here, a threshold has been crossed. The gentle rhythm continues. In the morning, for those who wake here, the lights come up slowly, not the bright blast of day, but the slow opening of a curtain. The lamp is turned a little higher over a few minutes. The air is adjusted slightly. The voice on the intercom is warm but quiet. The participants' eyes open and blink. The room is without edges. The senses accommodate themselves to the day like a hand easing into warm water. Breakfast might be oatmeal, smooth and warm, or toast, soft with a bit of butter and a small piece of fruit. Everything is measured, not to control, but to keep the day predictable and kind. If the protocol allows, the participant washes, enjoying water that is neither hot nor cold, a simple freshening. The electrodes are gently removed, the the skin cleaned and patted soft. The staff thank the participant and ask how they feel. The participant answers without needing to reach for a word. Fine, easy, rested, even if the night was not perfect, the room's kindness makes it feel manageable. When they leave the building, they are surprised by how bright the world is, how insistently sound rises from sidewalks and roads. A bird's call feels sharp after the lab's softness. A bus's brakes sigh loudly. The sun sits on the skin like a hand. The body recalibrates. The lab has taught them to notice these changes, to use them gently. Bright morning light when you want to feel more awake. Quiet darkness when you want to encourage sleep. Regular meals, simple routines. The body responds like a flower that opens and closes with the day. For those who stay, the lab resets the rooms, resets the monitors, empties the bins, folds the blankets, replenishes the gauze and tape and small tubes. The building returns to its baseline, ready to welcome another person, another set of rhythms. The days are similar here, but never identical. Each person brings their own tempo. The lab listens, hears the rhythm, and plays along, not dominating, not lagging, a reliable metronome in the background. Imagine now the suprachiasmatic nucleus again, that tiny clock above the crossing of the optic nerves. It is astonishing, in a quiet way, how such a small collection of cells can coordinate so much. Through nerve signals and hormones and gene expression, it helps organize the timing of countless processes. You can picture it as a lantern in a lighthouse with a slow, steady rotation, signaling to the rest of the body where it is, where the rocks are, where the open water is. The body does not need to see the lantern to be guided by it. The guidance is in the light itself. The lab honors that, setting the room's light like a stand-in for the sky. When people come to the lab to entrain to circadian time, they are invited to treat themselves with the same patience that the staff show. If a schedule change is needed, it happens slowly, 10 or 15 minutes earlier each night for a week, or 10 or 15 minutes later. The lab checks in each day, making sure the new rhythm is tolerated. They ask about sleepiness, about alertness, about mood, about appetite, about the ease of waking. They listen to the answers and adjust. The program is a conversation, not a monologue. The gentle rhythm continues. The lab also thinks about the environment back home. They ask about curtains and blinds. Are they heavy enough to soften the morning light if a later wake time is needed? Are they easy to draw to let the morning in if an earlier wake is desired? They ask about the brightness of bedside lamps and the color of the bulbs. Warmer light in the evening, cooler, brighter light in the morning. They ask about screens and if the participant prefers to scroll or to read. If scrolling, they suggest night modes, time-limited sessions, gentle alarms to remind the eyes to rest. If reading, they suggest paper books or e-ink devices that are less stimulating. In the staff lounge, a whiteboard lists the studies in progress. Each line has a name and a series of dates. There are small notes in the margins about which technologies each one uses. Some use dim light melatonin sampling. Some use cores for body temperature. Some use ambulatory EEG for at-home nights where a sleep cap is worn like a soft hat. Some focus on naps, measuring how a brief afternoon rest can help with memory or mood, and how the timing of that nap makes it more or less restorative based on the person's circadian phase. The board is neat, the markers are capped. A small potted plant sits nearby, its leaves glossy and healthy, enjoying the gentle artificial light. You consider the day drifting toward evening again, and imagine that in one of the rooms, a participant is writing in a journal, noting when they felt most alert, when they felt most drowsy, what days felt easiest, and why. In writing this, they teach themselves to notice their own internal time. This noticing is a skill that improves with practice. The lab celebrates such practices not with fanfare, but with a nod, an acknowledgement that awareness is a powerful tool, and that soft discipline, no harshness, just steady follow-through, can change how a day feels. There are moments when the lab is empty, between participants, between waves of data. In those moments, the building rests, lights are off, the humming of machines subsides, the rooms exhale, the beds look inviting even to those who have made them 100 times. The silence is deep. If you stand in the doorway, you can feel the residue of sleep in the room, as if the air itself remembers nights spent wrapped in blankets. The gentle rhythm continues. Then the next participant arrives, and the ritual repeat. Welcome, orientation, electrode placement, dim lights, soft voices. The lab treats each repetition like a kind of meditation. No step is sloppy. No moment is rushed. It is this care that makes the data trustworthy. It is also this care that makes the place healing to be in, even when you are not aware how healing it is. The body notices, even when the mind is busy. Sometimes studies involve wake maintenance tests, inviting a participant to stay awake in the dim, to see how their alertness holds across their internal day. They sit in a comfortable chair and look ahead at a blank surface. Their eyelids want to fall. They hold them up for a time. The staff watch with kind attention, ready to catch a doze, to note when it arrives. The room remains quiet. When the test is finished, the participant is allowed to rest properly again, like a boat released from its moorings. On other days, the lab measures how quickly sleep arrives when a participant is asked to nap at set intervals. The nap is allowed to be short. The purpose is not rest, but measurement. Still, the nap is a gift, and the participant takes it gladly. The gentle rhythm continues. In your imagination, you can walk to a window that looks into a sleep room. The participant is sleeping on their side, breathing with a soft tempo. The wires lie along the pillow like fine vines, gracefully arranged. The monitor's line moves up and down like a small wave across the screen. The room is a little cooler than the hallway because the body sleeps better with a slight drop in the temperature. A soft throw at the foot of the bed can be pulled up if needed. Everything is within reach. If the participant shifts, the wires do not pull. The design of the system anticipates motion and forgives it. At the edges of this building, there are clocks that do tick. In maintenance closets and storage rooms, where the rhythm of cleanliness and supply also continues. Someone checks the inventory of electrodes. Someone orders more tape. Someone replaces a bulb. Someone cleans the filter on a fan. These tasks are simple, but they keep the quietness humming. The lab is like a well-tuned instrument. It stays in tune because of the small, constant acts of care. Think of how this lab's work goes out into the world. The findings become guidelines. The guidelines become advice delivered gently in clinics and in homes. Light in the morning, dimness in the evening, consistent routines, attentive mealtimes, respect for the inner night. People try these things, not as rules to enforce, but as ways to be kinder to themselves. The effect builds slowly, like a path worn smooth by many feet. A house becomes calmer in the hour before bed. A phone is left in another room. A lamp is chosen for its warm glow. A curtain is swapped for one that drapes heavier, allowing sleep to be longer. These changes are small, but the body appreciates them with gratitude that does not need words. Now, as your own night deepens, feel the pull toward stillness. You can imagine again that you are in that room. The lab is not far away. Even if you are hearing this from across the world, you carry a version of it with you. The quiet repetition, the respect for the inner clock, the patience that does not insist. You can make a lab of your own at home, in your bedroom, with dim lights and a steady temperature and a comfortable bed. You can become your own calm watcher, noticing when drowsiness arrives and letting it do its quiet work. The gentle rhythm continues. The staff who work here know that sleep is not a switch. It is a wave. It has a warm front that arrives without fanfare. It has a peak and a gentle departure. When the wave is allowed to move across you without obstacles, it cleans the mind, tidies the emotions, restores the cells, and brings you to the morning with a sense of wholeness. They also know that sometimes obstacles appear, and that is all right. They move around them, soften them with routine, diminish them with care. They never despair because the body wants to sleep. It carries that desire deep within the brain in the same place that it carries hunger and thirst, a homeostatic need that is patient and persistent. Imagine the entrance to the building now. The sign is modest. The facade is simple. The door opens to a vestibule where the air changes, feels more controlled. A mat invites you to step fully in. Your shoes make no sound. The rest of the world is outside. Inside, the day yields to circadian time. You smile without thinking. Your shoulders drop. You move slower. You are welcome here. Science, in this lab, looks like kindness. It looks like making sure someone has a glass of water. It looks like offering a soft blanket when the air feels a little cool. It looks like giving time without pushing. It looks like writing a note clearly so everyone understands. It looks like turning a dial slowly instead of a quick twist, because the body appreciates gradual changes. It looks like rechecking a connection because the first signal was a little noisy. It looks like staying awake through the night in a chair, watching a screen glow with the rhythms of another person's sleep, and finding comfort in the steadiness of that task. If you listen closely to the air, you might hear the building saying something. It says, rest. It says, slow down. It says, there's enough time to do this gently. It says, your body knows the way. In some studies, temperature is measured with great care because the body's core warmth dips during the internal night. A tiny sensor can rest under the tongue or in the ear canal for a moment. In longer protocols, a skin patch can track temperature continuously, a gentle observer that does not intrude. The data shows an elegant curve, the minimum arriving a few hours before waking. That minimum anchors the internal day, a landmark like a quiet bell that rings at the same time each night if you listen. The lab listens on your behalf, then shows you what it has heard. Other measurements might include Pupils size in dim light, the way eyes respond to a flash and then settle back. How that response is shaped by recent light exposure and the time of day. These measurements tell the lab how sensitive the system is in that moment, how responsive the inner clock is to potential nudges. The methods are gentle. The lights are not bright. The flashes are brief. The eyes are given long rests. The data floats into rows of numbers. The staff feel a quiet satisfaction seeing them because numbers like these are not about competition. They are about understanding. A researcher says softly that when people live in alignment with their inner clock, they often describe feeling less friction in the day. It is not that tasks become easy. It is that tasks are not being fought by a part of the body that is moving in another direction. The day feels smoother. The lab's purpose is to help people find that smoother track, to reassure them that small, consistent steps matter, that patience matters, that the body is waiting to show them the way if they allow themselves to listen. You imagine that you are lying again under a blanket that has the exact right weight for you. Your hands are soft. Your breath is slow. You have time. The room is dim. The gentle rhythm continues. The words of this narration can become background, a low murmur that feels like the lab's hallway sounds, supportive and unobtrusive. If you drift, the story will still be here when you return, and it does not mind repeating itself in quiet circles, because that is how sleep feels, after all, a nested set of cycles, the brain moving through them without fanfare. In future studies, the lab will continue to refine the light that it offers, the timing of meals, the suggestions for activity. It will use wearable devices that are even more comfortable than today's, perhaps no more noticeable than a ring or a patch. It will keep its spaces quiet and warm-toned. It will train staff to speak gently and move quietly, because that is the culture here. It will share its findings with the world. It will do so calmly, in papers and talks and conversations that do not exaggerate. It will remember that every data point is a night in a person's life, a night that should be respected. If you are awake, you can think of how to take this into your own day. Choose a bedtime you can keep. Choose a wake time you can keep. Let them drift by only 15 minutes at most, day to day. Let the morning light find your eyes. Let the evening be dim and smooth. Let your meals be regular. Let your exercise be at a time when your body feels ready, not forced. Let your bedroom be a little cool. Let your pillow be one you look forward to. Let your sheets smell like nothing more than clean fabric. The gentle rhythm continues. Perhaps you think of the people who built this lab. They imagined a space where sound is softened, where light is managed, where the tools are precise but comforting. They imagined protocols that ask a lot of patience from everyone, but that never demand fast results. They imagined a team who could stay up through the night without complaint, who find meaning in the steady watch. They imagined participants who would trust them, who would share their nights. They made this place for you in a way, so you could learn to live on circadian time even without stepping foot inside. Night deepens. The inner clock leans into its own midnight, the moment of greatest biological night, a time when the body is most sure that it should be asleep. That time is lovely when you are resting. The building seems to hold its breath. The monitors show long stretches of deep sleep. The staff sip tea from mugs that warm their hands. Their eyes move across the screens. Their shoulders rest. They are at ease, watching the steady sea. The gentle rhythm continues. As the inner night begins to pass, the body prepares to wake. Cortisol lifts slightly. The heart rate rises little. The breath changes shape. Temperature begins to edge upward. The lab does not need to announce this. It is like a dawn that happens behind closed curtains. The participant sleeps on for a little while longer, then opens their eyes slowly. No one rushes to greet them. The moment is allowed to be private. Then a quiet voice arrives, gentle as a hand on the shoulder. We have walked quietly through this place together. We have watched how it uses repetition to find truth, how it respects light and dark, how it guides people toward living on circadian time with small, patient steps. Now, in your own space, you can let that patience hold you. If your eyes are heavy, let them fall. If your body is drifting, let it float. If you are already sleeping, the words will become part of the safe background you dream within. If you are still here, you can feel sure that you will find rest soon. Thank you for spending this soft, unhurried time with me in the quiet repetition of a human sleep laboratory. You are safe. You are allowed to rest. If this calm journey helped you, a gentle reminder to subscribe and leave a like helps us keep releasing videos like this one as regularly and softly as the night itself. Good night, and may your inner clock guide you to a deep, easy sleep.